Hi everyone, welcome to day 60 of my daily challenge, which is to train and learn. Today is Thursday the 3rd of March 2022. The training session this morning was sand track shuttle runs with burpees at each end, which went for about an hour. So that was a good workout. And the lesson for the day, the thought for the day, is about going from zero to great. And it's about the thought for the day, it's about going from zero to great with humility and incremental improvements and laying foundations. So if you think about anything that you've actually done really well, you've ended up being quite good at, you don't have to be the best in the world, but any skill or anything that you've developed quite well in yourself, everyone's got something there. So think about how you got there and think about where you started. So for me, thinking back on a few different things, I'm not going to call myself great at anything, but there's things that I improved my skills at quite a bit, and it was through this process. Was basically at zero was having the humility to learn and really learn the basics and listen to people that knew what they were doing and ask questions. So almost picking mentors. So from a tactical response group side of things, when you first start there, you get trained in all the basics of shooting, static shooting on the line, shooting rifles, shooting pistols, etc. So for me, it was a real focus on the basics, because as we're told in that sort of training, the basics need to be really, you need to nail them down pat, so that when you get to the advanced things, you've already got those basics squared away. So nailing those down, asking questions of different instructors and experienced guys and people that I even like the way they talk about things, or I connected with in some sort of way. I'd definitely lean towards those people, ask them questions, and anyone who I know is a good operator at the tactical response group, the best of the best, I guess, I'd hang off them and watch what they do, and pick the good things out of all different people. Everyone's got their own really positive things that you could pick bits out of. So, but basically being prepared to start from almost pretty much scratch and then just add bits as you go. I wasn't expecting to be the world's greatest operator at any stage, or definitely not in the first 6 months or 12 months or even 2 or 3 years. For me, I took on board the words that I was told about nailing down all the basic skills and really working on my fundamentals in those first few years, so that I can add things to it later on. And I expect it to be hopefully building up, and within the next 5, 6, 7 years, getting really good at those skills and adding skills to it, and even starting instructing other people and things like that. And that's how it went. It worked well. It was just adding incremental things as you go. I'll put the other side of the coin on the same thought, is that when I joined the police, I worked with people who were really good at what they did. I worked with experienced guys who were really good, and I worked with experienced guys who were really bad at what they did. What I saw, a noticeable thing from the people that were bad at their job, and they always made terrible decisions, but they ran into things head first, and just they wouldn't. First of all, they didn't have the humility to listen. So the senior guys or people around them that were trying to tell them the way they could do things because they've seen this before, or they've done this before, whatever. They wouldn't listen, and partly through overconfidence, whether it was covering up for their lack of knowledge, lack of skill, or lack of confidence, but they were overconfident. So they would charge head first into things, make bad decisions, and things would escalate all the time for those particular people. So policing being the funny world where you can go into almost any situation with big arguments, disputes, even weapons, things like that, and you can de-escalate it or you can escalate it. Sometimes you don't have that much effect on the scenario, particularly when there's drugs involved. So people might be they might have lost the plot on drugs, and they're not going to listen to anything you're saying or read your body language or calm down even when you're doing everything right. But most of the time you can affect the situation in a positive way or a negative way. So like I say, the guys that never really became good at their job, they didn't have the humility to listen. When they left the academy with basic training, they didn't add to their training. They didn't try and build on what they had. They just went straight in thinking they knew it all. They were already the best at what they did, and basically just jumped into situations, and they would spin out of control all the time, and they would blame other things. They wouldn't take ownership. They would blame the situation around them for everything going wrong. it goes hand in hand as well with any sort of sport. So if you decide tomorrow that you're going to run a marathon and you haven't been training for a marathon, you don't go and run a marathon tomorrow. You don't go and run a marathon next week. You don't even run a 30k run in preparation next week. You do your 5k runs, even 2k runs if you haven't been running for years. You set up a plan of when the marathon's going to be, and you start with those 5k runs, and then you up it to 10k runs, and you incrementally get better as you go. But you build the foundations. You pick the brains of people who've run marathons before. You get coaches, whatever it may be, and you build on those skills as you go. So that's kind of that's probably the best analogy for the thought for the day, is that going from 0 to great is an incremental thing. Don't expect to be there tomorrow. Expect to put in the hard work, have the humility to learn from others, and just add as you go, and eventually you'll get to a point where you're great at, or at least good at what you do. So thought for the day. I'll see you tomorrow.